"Take me to your bed," the giant bride said. He misunderstood, and that night changed everything. Witness this unbelievable true inspired story right here on Whisper of the Past. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share where you're watching from. Let's get started. Jack Miller had always believed that some people were born to live small lives, steady jobs, quiet homes, safe choices. He used to think he was one of them. A carpenter from Clearwater, Oregon, Jack lived in a one-room cabin at the edge of the Columbia Forest. His days began with the smell of cedar and pine, his nights ended with the sound of the river whispering beyond his window. He liked the rhythm of solitude, until the morning that changed everything. He'd been sent by the forestry department to rebuild an old footbridge washed away by spring floods. The air was cool, the sun filtering through mist, and his hammer echoed across the valley. It was then that he heard it, a sound like thunder, rhythmic and deep, not from the sky but the earth itself. He turned, and froze. Between the towering redwoods stood a figure, not a bear, not a person, but something in between. She was a woman, yes, but impossibly tall, at least 12 feet, her hair the color of moonlit silver, her eyes pale blue like melting ice. She was clothed in row-woven fabric that shimmered faintly, as if made of starlight and bark. Jack dropped his hammer. Hi, he called out, his voice trembling. The woman tilted her head, studying him like a child studying a bird. Her lips curved into a smile, not threatening, just curious. "You speak," she said, her voice a deep hum that vibrated in his chest. Yeah, he stammered. "You, speak too." She crouched down slowly, so that her face was closer to his. The ground trembled beneath her weight, but her movements were graceful, deliberate. "I am Elara," she said softly. "You build the bridge." Jack nodded, trying to, yeah. Without a word, she reached behind her, lifted an entire log, one he had been struggling to move for hours, and placed it gently beside him. Her strength was effortless, her kindness, immediate. From that day, she came often. Sometimes she'd bring food, fruits from trees he didn't know grew in the forest. Sometimes she'd just watch him work, humming songs that made the leaves shiver. Slowly, their fear of one another faded into something else, a wordless companionship. He would tell her about the world of men, highways, towns, the way electricity hummed through wires like captured lightning. She would tell him about her people, the old giants, who lived in the shadows of mountains and clouds, watching the smaller world but never stepping into it. Over months, friendship became affection, affection turned into something deeper, and before Jack could fully understand how, he found himself waiting for her each evening, just to hear her voice again. When winter came, he built a small shelter at the forest's edge, big enough for her to sit beside when the snow fell. She laughed when she saw it, a sound that shook the icicles loose from the trees. "You build for a giant," she teased. "I build for a friend," he said. But they both knew the truth, she was more than that. The world outside would never accept them, he knew. People feared what they didn't understand. And yet, one night under a blanket of stars, she leaned down, her silver hair brushing against his face, and whispered, "Jack, marry me." He thought he misheard. "You mean..." "Yes," she said, her eyes glowing faintly in the starlight. "Our ways are not like yours. We do not marry for tribe or name, but for soul. When I ask this, I offer forever." His heart pounded. He was just a man, small, mortal, ordinary. And yet something in her eyes made him feel infinite. He nodded. "I will." The ceremony took place deep in the forest, unseen by human eyes. The air was filled with light that seemed to come from the trees themselves. She wore no gown, only the silver weave of the forest moonlight, and he no tuxedo, only his flannel shirt and work boots. But when she took his hand in her enormous palm, the forest itself seemed to pause, as if blessing what it witnessed. For weeks afterward, life felt like a waking dream. Jack would return to town sometimes, to buy supplies, to visit his mother, but people began to notice changes. He looked stronger, younger somehow. He smiled more, spoke less. And always, when dusk fell, he disappeared back into the woods. Then came the night everything changed. They had spent the evening watching the river from the bluff. Elara had been quiet, more thoughtful than usual. Her gaze lingered on the horizon where dark clouds rolled over the mountains. "What's wrong?" Jack asked. "My people," she said finally. "They do not accept what I've done. Giants do not marry men. They say I've broken the oldest law, the one that keeps our worlds apart." Jack took her hand. "Then we'll go somewhere else. We'll find a way." But she shook her head. "Running will not change what is bound by the earth itself." She leaned closer, her breath cool and trembling. "Tonight, the choice must be sealed. If I stay with you beyond the next moonrise, I will no longer be of their world. My life will become as yours, mortal, small, fleeting." Jack's heart ached. "Then stay," he whispered. "Stay with me." She looked at him with a sadness that cut deeper than fear. "If I do, I must sleep as you sleep. Dream as you dream. But our kind, we do not share beds. We share dreams. That is how our bond becomes eternal." He didn't understand then, not really. All he heard was her final whisper as the wind rose around them. "Take me to your bed." He froze. His bed, his cabin barely fit him, let alone her. The phrase echoed in his mind, twisting in human meaning. His cheeks flushed. Maybe this was her way of saying what all couples said when love burned strong. He swallowed hard and smiled nervously. Yeah," he said. "Of course. Come on." He led her through the forest, back to his cabin. The roof brushed her shoulders as she ducked inside. The bed creaked under her weight as she sat down, and for a moment, he forgot the world, forgot the laws, the fears, the impossibilities. The candlelight flickered across her face, painting her in golden shadow. She looked enormous, yet heartbreakingly human. "I wanted to see where you dream," she said softly. Jack hesitated. "I thought you meant." Her eyes met his, kind but knowing. "I know what you thought," she said, smiling faintly. "You humans make everything about touch. For us, it is about memory." She placed her fingertip, just one, against his forehead. "Lie down," she whispered. He obeyed. The world fell away. In an instant, he was no longer in his cabin but standing in a vast meadow beneath a violet sky. The air shimmered with lights that moved like music. Mountains floated in the distance, and rivers ran through the air like ribbons of glass. Elara stood before him, radiant and unbound by gravity. "This is where I come from," she said. "This is the dream of my kind, the place between the worlds. To share it is to share our souls." Jack reached out, touching her hand. It was warm, real. "It's beautiful," he breathed. "But beauty has a price," she said. "If I stay here too long with you, I can never return. If you stay, your body will fade from your world." The realization hit him. This was the choice, hers and his. One would lose their world to be with the other. He took a deep breath. "Then stay," he said again. "Let my world be yours." She looked at him, eyes glistening with something beyond tears. "You don't understand what you ask. My strength will fade. My memory of this realm will dim. I will become like you, and one day, I will die." Jack smiled faintly. "Then at least you'll know what it means to live." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she stepped closer and kissed him, not with lips, but with the light that surrounded her. It passed through him, filled him, bound him. The next thing he knew, he was awake in his cabin, the candle burned low. The bed beside him was empty, but his hand glowed faintly where she had touched him. For days, he searched the forest, calling her name. No answer came, but as spring returned, strange things began to grow near his cabin, silver-petaled flowers, vines that shimmered faintly at night. The river sang softly, almost in her voice. Then one morning, as sunlight streamed through the trees, he heard her whisper in the wind. "Dream with me." He closed his eyes, and for the first time since that night, he smiled. He understood now. She wasn't gone. She was there, in the space between waking and dream, where love never fades. Years later, when townsfolk came across the ruins of his cabin, they found something they couldn't explain: two figures carved from the same silver wood, hand in hand, faces peaceful. One small, one towering, both turned toward the sunrise. And on the old oak beam above the bed, someone had carved words in 2 languages, one human, one ancient. Love does not fit the world. So it builds its own.